Hello students, our study today is about absolute value. What does it mean, absolute value? Absolute value is denoted by this symbol and it's the distance from the origin. Since we're talking about the distance from the origin, this means that the distance must be positive. So we cannot have a distance from an origin to a point and the distance be negative. So absolute value of x of a negative number is impossible. For example, suppose you have absolute value of x minus 1 equal in absolute value equal minus 5. So this is impossible because the distance can never be negative. So absolute value of x equal to a, by definition, if you have equal, x can be a or minus a. Let us take an example. Suppose you want to solve x minus 2 equal to 5. Since absolute value, the distance is 5, so if you remove the absolute value, you must write x minus 2 is 5 or x minus 2 equal minus 5. So in this case, x is 7 or x is minus 3. Let us return back. 7 minus 2 is 5. Absolute value of 5 is 5. If you replace by minus 3 minus 2 is minus 5. Absolute value of minus 5 is also 5. But if b was negative, as I said here, absolute value of x equal to b, this is impossible since b is less than 0. So the two solutions for absolute value of x equal to a are the 2 points minus a and a, where you're going to solve it for x. Let us take example. Suppose you want to solve this example. So you write 2 absolute value of x minus 3. You take the minus 7 to the other side is 10. Then you divide by 2. You're going to get 5. So x minus 3 is 5. This will lead us to x is 8. Or x minus 3 is minus 5. This will lead us to minus 2 since 5 is positive. Sometimes you have a denominator, etc. And I advise you not to do a mistake and write always x minus 5 in absolute value. Let us name this x minus 5 here that we have by small a. So we're going to name this one by small a. So this will shrink our work by writing the always absolute value. So we have 2/3 a minus 7 over 2 equal 1 over 6. Sorry, suppose this is 3 over 6. Let me correct it. I solve it as a 3 over 6. So I have over 6, so I multiply the whole expression by 6. So 6 times 2, 12 over 3 is 4. 6 over 2 is a 3 times 7, 21. 6 and 6 cancel out, it's a 3. So you take 21 to the other side, you divide it by 4. 24 over 4 is 6. But a is nothing else than absolute value of x minus 5, as we said. So in that case, absolute value of x minus 5 is 6. You remove the absolute value, you put 6 or minus 6, and you solve for x. So x is either 11 or minus 1. Another example here, 5 over 3, let us name this to be a, plus 7 over 2 equal 5 over 6. Let us multiply all by 6 to cancel denominator. 6 over 3 is 2, so 10a. 6 over 2 is a 3 times 7, 21. 6 and 6 cancel out, it's 5. So 10a will be minus 16, and you bring 21 to the other side. So you have a, which is the absolute value, equal minus 8 over 5 after simplifying by 2. Since absolute value can never be negative, so it is impossible. So this is the first part when you have absolute value equal. Suppose you have absolute value of x less or equal to a, where a is positive. Suppose you have this notion. When you have less or equal, don't do the mistake. You take everything written inside. It can be x or any expression, as you can see here in the example, any expression. It will be bounded between minus a and a. Let us take an example. Suppose I told you I want all numbers in absolute value less or equal to 2. You can tell me all numbers between minus 2 till 2, because any number between minus 2 and 2, if you put absolute value to it, it will be less or equal to a. So that's why between minus a and a. So anytime you have less or equal, it must be between the two numbers minus a and a. When we had equal before, it was minus a or a. But when you have less or equal, it will be everything between minus a and a. Depend if a included or minus a included, depend if you have here equal or less only. However, if you have absolute value of x less or equal to b and b is negative, it's impossible since positive can never be smaller than negative number. So this is impossible. Let us take some example. Suppose you want to solve that one. As I said, always when you have absolute value and you have less, you take this and you put in the middle. You put negative of the number here and positive of the number here, as we did in the paragraph in the diagram above. Now, as you all know, you add plus 3 on every side to cancel the 3. So you're going to get minus 2 less than 2x less than 8. I want to find x, so I divide both sides by 2, all sides, the 3 sides. You're going to get x between minus 1 and 4. What does it mean, x between minus 1 and 4? Because I have less, it's open here and here. So it will be between minus 1 and 4, in open from minus 1 till 4, as we said here. Let us go to another example. So when you have complicated denominator, let us name it as a small a, as I said. Minus 2/3 a minus 1 bigger or equal to another. I did come in another mistake. Suppose here you have, 7. Okay, so bigger or equal minus 7 over 5. So this is 7 over 5. So here in that case, I multiply all. You have 5 and 3. I multiply by 15. 15 over 3 is 5, so minus 10a. And 15 times 1 is minus 15. 15 over 5 is a 3 times 7 minus 21. You bring minus 15 to the other side, it will be minus 6. Since coefficient of a is negative, when you divide, you put less or equal, and a is nothing else than absolute value of 3x minus 1, less or equal to 3 over 5. So we take what's in the middle. Inside the absolute value, we put it in the middle. Minus 3 over 5 from that side, 3 over 5. You multiply by 5 to cancel the denominator. So you're going to get minus 3 less or equal to 15x minus 5 less or equal to 3 when you multiply the whole expression by 5. Then you add the plus 5 here, 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 as you all know. And then you divide by 15, you have the answer. If you take example part C, 1 over 5 absolute value, let us name it by a, as we said, minus 1 less or equal 3 over 2. The least common multiple in denominator is 10. I multiply by 10. 10 over 5 is 2, 2a. 10 times 1 is 10, less or equal to 15, because 10 over 2 is 5. So a, which is the absolute value, less or equal to 25 over 2. The same story, what's in the middle, x plus 2, between negative of that number and positive. And you continue the process by multiplying by 2, then minus 4, as you all know, minus 4. Then you divide by 2 all sides, you get that expression. This example here, if you multiply by 6, you're going to get 2a plus 18 less or equal to 15. So 2a less or equal minus 3. A less than negative number. As we said above, a is nothing else than the absolute value. So absolute value of x minus 1 can never be absolute value less or equal to negative number, which is minus 1.5. So we say this is what? This is impossible. Let us go by the third and the last property. If you have absolute value remains bigger or equal to a positive number. So by solution, suppose I told you give me all number bigger or equal than 2. So any number bigger than 2 or less or equal minus 2. Minus 5 is a solution because absolute minus 5 is 5 bigger or equal than 2. So that's why when you have bigger or equal, it is either less or equal to minus a, we put it, or bigger or equal to a. And absolute value bigger or equal to b, and b is negative. You all know positive is always bigger than negative. So time is up since we're reaching 10 minutes. So I'm going to do the part 2 where I'm going to re-explain this third step.